Hi, I'm Tom Frost.
I'm Maya Frost.
We're married.
And we are here in Buenos Aires, Argentina, where we have lived for the past 3 years. And we spent the first 3 years in a larger apartment in a different neighborhood, and now we're in a studio apartment in the trendy zone of Palermo.
Just a little bit of history about us. We've been married for a long time.
23 years.
No,
24 years.
24 years.
Yes.
24 years.
Right.
And we met in Japan, even though we grew up about 6 miles away from one another.
Small towns in Oregon. We're really kind of from the country. We met when we were both in our early 20s, and we were teaching English in northern rural Japan, again, in the country, and became teaching partners. It was a school owned by his brother, who had married the Japanese exchange student that lived with their family. We ended up getting married, and we had our first 2 daughters there, and then spent the next big chunk of our lives living in Oregon. And after living in the suburbs for about 5 years, we just decided that it was now or never. We had wanted to live abroad with our kids as a family, and the oldest was already in college at 18, so we just decided to sell everything and move. And we did that in about 6 weeks.
We have one small storage unit in Oregon. I think it's 5 by 5, and honestly, I don't know what's in there.
No, I don't know what's in there. I think it's boxes of the kids, class photos or things like that.
Don't really know.
No.
But when we moved to Mexico, we each had one box and one backpack, and that was it.
And our first day in Mexico, he always says, was
the best day of my life. Total and utter relief from responsibilities of taking care of stuff. No cars, no houses, no crap, no stuff coming into my house and wondering where it came from. It was totally complete bliss.
Liberation. We had a really fun year in Mexico. It was a great transition year for us to kind of get used to living in a different way and having a sort of different idea about what we wanted. And it was our starter country. A lot of expats have what they call the starter country, the one where you just kind of figure things out first. It was a year that we laughed more than I think we've laughed in 10 years put together. So it was a fun year. But toward the end of that year, we decided to move on because...
Well, it was time for a change, and we were looking for some place that had a little bit more music,
access to things,
museums, a little bit better transportation, probably
education options,
much better education options for our kids. So we asked our youngest daughter, who we had to get buy-in from because she was the one that was going to spend the most time in school. We asked her where she wanted to go next,
and she did a research, and she said, I think we should move to Buenos Aires, and everybody agreed, and we packed up our 2 suitcases each and headed down here. And we had no idea what to expect. We arrived in July, which is the dead of winter.
It's between 40 and 50 degrees, sometimes drops as low as 30.
So after a year in Mexico, that alone was quite a shock. And then we had lived in this very kind of tranquil beach community in Mexico. We came here in the big bustling city of 13 million people, so that was also a shock. But, so in the beginning we didn't have expectations other than we wanted to see what it was like, and we rented for the first few weeks.
And it was so much fun. Hours here are much, much different. Things don't really get rolling in the morning until 10 or 11 o'clock.
Very late nights.
Very late nights. Restaurants don't really have people in until after 9 o'clock, and then you sit down for 3 or 4 hours.
They're humming at midnight.
Yeah, and so all of a sudden our schedule, and we had always been early risers. We're still early risers, so the late nights has to be accompanied by a siesta in the afternoon.
Despite the fact that we spent a year in Mexico and now we've been here 3 years, we are far from fluent in Spanish, and so very far from fluent. We make a lot of mistakes. We're very humbled, but people here are very accommodating. They're very friendly. They're very interested in us. And I think that one of the things I like about it the most is that we have a very sort of small town existence here in the city. We have this sort of cabin-y type studio apartment that's very cozy, and then outside we have this sort of Main Street experience where we get to know the local, laundry person and the person who sells the bread at the bakery and the person who has a little grocery store in the corner and the produce vendor. Right.
And the
video guys around the corner, and all of that. That's a very, very friendly kind of first name basis, and we really appreciate that.
Well, I like to walk, And this city is huge, and it's flat. The architecture here is just phenomenally interesting. In addition to the great urban walking, they have a number of parks. The Palermo parks, which were designed by Carlos Paez, I believe, are just down about 3 or 4 blocks away, and they go on
with lakes and rose gardens and bridges and walking paths and
lots of
gazebos.
green space. We're always finding new corners and new cafes to sit.
Tons of cafes. Going out for coffee is a big part of what we do. We get up in the morning, we go out to a cafe and, you know, spend some time there. We go out to a cafe again later in the afternoon around 4 or 5. And sometimes we go out to dinner after that. So we love the proximity of all of that here. We love being able to walk out the door and choose any number of things that we want to do. We've been spending a lot of time at the flea market. We love it here.
Really fun flea market.
Love going to the flea market.
It's really the first time in our lives that Maya and I have lived together without kids, because number 2 daughter just moved in across the street.
Number 3 is working for Norwegian Cruise Lines. She's in the Mediterranean right now, and she is going to be coming down here in October for 6 weeks and staying here for a while, and then she'll be based in Buenos Aires and doing the run that goes down the southern tip and up to Santiago and back. So, and
then daughter number 4 graduates from college in December, and then she'll come down here because she's the one that originally picked it, and this is where she feels the most at home. And then, of course, daughter number 1
lives in New York, which is a great place to have family. Direct flight from BA to New York, and of course, because I'm a writer and my agent and publisher and everything are there, that makes it very convenient to go and visit her at the same time. So we feel like we have an ideal situation. We see this as a long-term place for a family, and I feel really fortunate that we're here, and I am grateful for this chance to tell you a little bit about it. I hope we get a chance to show you some of our favorite places here.
So thanks for the opportunity, and look forward to talking to you soon.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Hi, I'm giving you the quick tour of our little studio apartment here in Buenos Aires. Come on in. This is one-room living. There's a bathroom right behind, and we've had this sort of built-in storage that, well, not built-in. We put our clothes and everything in armoires, and everything else is one wide open space. So this is the living area here. We spend most of our time gathered here, writing, talking, drinking mate, drinking wine, hanging out with our daughter or friends or whatever. And we have a very small kitchen. And for us, it's kind of nostalgic. It reminds us of the first kitchen we had when we lived in Japan. Very small 2-burner stove. That's the only cupboard storage we have for the kitchen. We are putting a rack system above, so we'll have a little bit of storage up there. But it's a new challenge for us to live in this small space and to figure out how to make great meals with limited surfaces. So we're enjoying that. More of the kitchen is here in plain view. A little table. We're still waiting to get some chairs. More storage. And then right over behind you is the bed. And we've got one piece of furniture here to kind of divide the living and bedroom space, and we'll be adding some plants and some other things as the weather gets a little warmer. We'll be putting some plants on the little porch out here as well. But pretty much this is it, and we like the coziness of it. And we spend a lot of time here, but when we're tired of it, it's an easy thing to just pop outside, and we've got the whole city to explore. So